Heated Shenanigans, working stiffer than mannequins. Vader time like a mannequin. Mega powers, I'm savage and beat the babbling. Got 'em shook off the verbal acumen. I'm the main event, meaning nobody coming after him. The topics we be tackling, ankle locking and tapping them. I hate seafood, but I might throw the Boston crab on them. You know sometimes it gets heated. You know sometimes it gets heated.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of Heated Shenanigans Podcast, hosted by Scott here. And guys, you have asked, begged, pleaded, and demanded, and we are finally able to sit down with Chicago sweetheart, NWA power star, Missa Kate.
How are you? Talk about an intro.
I've been good. I'm honest here with you on that. Like, there's been a lot of people that have wanted you on this podcast.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you. I mean, duh. No.
Well, I mean, you have been really on top of your game all over professional wrestling, from an independent level to the NWA level. And what's Missa's world been like? How have you been?
Good. I'm getting to the point where, as of right now, wrestling is my only job. So, not quite there paying the bills, but it's getting there. So, and that's due to, I'm getting more opportunities and I'm being able to travel more and meet more people and wrestle different people and stuff like that. So that, like, altogether, I think anybody who is a pure wrestler and they love this and they want to be a part of this, their ultimate goal is to live off of wrestling and make it like, no, I'm living my dream right now. So it's cool that that's like in my sights right now. So Missa's not too mad right now.
That's good. And I wanted to also tell you here at the top of this, before we dive in any further, I did have the opportunity to not really get to meet you, but watch. It was at a PWK show when we had brought in Victoria to that show. Just something that had always stuck out to me was your professionalism, your work ethic, and your passion for professional wrestling. And just Victoria and I had talked about it on the way back to afterwards, and I just want to let you know that really stuck out.
Thank you. I appreciate. I didn't even know that conversation was had. Yeah, I felt bad. And clearly I'm in Chicago because you could hear the trains. So that's how you know if you're in Chicago. But Victoria, unfortunately, like, I left we weren't able to cross paths before I left because she was, talking to fans. And again, I don't want to overstep boundaries, and she was enjoying her time. But the short period of time that I was able to meet her when she came backstage, super sweet. Again, she like, somebody that I looked up to, and she's like very strong, like I think deceptively strong. So that always attracted me to her. I'm like, oh, she's really cool. So, but thank you. That means a lot coming from her and from you, of course. So like, yeah, let's go.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we'll get started here. Missa, over the course of your career so far in professional wrestling, what would you say is one lesson that you learned that you didn't expect to learn, and how did it change your career afterwards?
I like that we're asking the good questions to start off with. Lesson that I learned, I guess. Wow, you stumped me with this one. This doesn't happen often. You're pretty good on you. I guess something that I learned was just kind of like, don't be scared to. There's different ways to approach wrestling, if that makes sense. So before I became a wrestler, I didn't know anything about the independent stage. I didn't know anything about Japan. I didn't know anything about UK. I didn't know anything about Canada. I knew a little bit about Lucha because I'm a Lita fan, so I knew a little bit, right? And then Rey Mysterio stuff. So if any style of wrestling that I knew was Lucha. But to me, I was like, oh, WWE is the only way to go. So when I found independent wrestling, that just opened up a whole new perspective on wrestling for me. So I guess that, to me, out of everything, was a big shock of how many different styles there are, and being able to recognize those styles, and just, yeah, it's just really, and American is very different than all of that. And then there's like a TV style, which I guess that would be a big lesson, is going into, independent wrestling in front of, like 25 to 200 or maybe 500 people is a lot different than TV tapings and studio tapings, because studio, sometimes they're small, so we actually get a smaller crowds than the independent crowds. And on top of that, you have to work camera. So that was a big learning curve, and especially for me, who's a big jock and growing up playing sports, and no matter what I played, one of the number one things I was always told by my coaches is like, keep your head down, don't let anybody see your next move. And now I'm in a world of wrestling where it's like your face needs to be seen on TV. So that was like a big adjustment in general going into wrestling. And then right when I was starting to slightly improve, it's like, well, now we need to see your face on camera, so you better get this, or you're not going to be shown. So that was TV versus independent. That's it's very different. It's very interesting, and I think people can tell those that have worked TV or have experience over those that have yet to experience that. So yeah, there's more. I know there's so much more, but that's just like the first thing that came to my head.
Let's say it's one of those like working TV. You go out there, have a fantastic match, well, at least you think so. Get to the back, and then they're tearing you down. Well, you didn't look at the camera. You didn't do this move in front of the camera. And then you're like, everything I know now is a lie.
Yep, exactly. Or it's like, oh, you did it this way when this should have been done this way. Or so the camera didn't get it because we were looking over here and you were over. Or like, not talking to the camera. There's like a bunch of different things that go into it that I never thought of. And I remember there was a time when like a certain training that I did that Mustafa Ali was there, and I was practicing this move, and he was trying to talk to me about like, oh, with cameras and stuff, make sure the right people know certain things. And I'm trying to not be disrespectful because I have no idea what he's talking about. And I'm just trying to like absorb it and like, okay. And that was like my second year in. So I was just trying to get my feet under me. So now it's like, when I talk about certain things like that, or if I had that conversation with him now, I'd be like, oh, gotcha. Yeah, you're right. At the time I was just being, yes, sir. Like, I don't know what you're saying, but sure. Okay.
How long have you been working with NWA?
I want to say, it can't be 3 years. It might almost be 3 years. It's definitely 2. Because the contract, I signed with them early last year, January. So that was 1 year, but I was with them for some time before that. Almost like 3, we'll say 2.5, almost 3.
So how did the NWA notice you? How did you get on their radar?
So Robert Anthony, who was somebody that I look up to, and I've trained with him a little bit here and there. But he was working at NWA, and at the time they were looking for female talent, and he threw my name in there. He's like, hey, I know this girl from Chicago, and one which is funny, not the girl getting sick part, but somebody got sick, and that's what Lady Frost, she got sick for a pay-per-view, and luckily I was available, so I got thrown in. And that was actually the first time that Maddie was also there. But that was the first time I met her. So I think universe stuff, little things click in my head. But so that's kind of, I just got my name thrown in a couple times, kept getting thrown in, and they're like, all right, we'll take a chance. And I guess they liked me because
still there.
I got merch now, so
that's the sign that you've made it, that they want you around.
Right? I get clothes. Like, I never have to buy clothes again. That's like a girl's dream.
You can advertise where you work now. You're okay to be here.
Yep, exactly.
Well, what would you say, Missa, throughout your time in professional wrestling, is the best story you have seen told in a wrestling ring? Not necessarily a match, but the psychology of what is happening in the ring.
Like in person, on TV, like in general.
In general.
I guess, I mean, this is going to be kind of cliche, but Shawn Michaels is one of the best storytellers, if not the of all time. So kind of almost any of his matches, just watching from start to end and knowing what I know now about wrestling, being able to watch his matches and be like, oh, I see what he did there. Yeah, that's like really fun to watch. Obviously, I don't want to give too much away. But yeah, him telling his story, even Randy Orton, is another one. But I guess when I think about storytelling too, not even just in a match, but storylines overall, my two favorite, because this is something that I watched. Like, okay, maybe not two favorite. That's two of my favorite, not my top favorite, but the Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero for the custody of Dominic, that whole storyline, overall, and just like the different stuff that they did in there, and of course Mickey and Trish for that whole long storyline for females to get that long, that longevity, and for people to get behind it, and the payoff was, I believe, was in Chicago. So,
Yeah.
right. So I'm like, yeah, it's cool when it's fun, but it also kind of ruins it for you as a fan. But once you become a wrestler and once you start working and you start looking at wrestling matches and storylines for what they are, you start trying to pick it apart. So you have a newfound respect for it. But the fan part kind of like, I don't want to say goes away, but there's still the fan part there, but it's just like not as dominant. So as a wrestler, like watching matches, if I could watch a match that just totally has me engaged where I'm not picking apart, I'm like, okay. I'm like, you got me. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is a good one. Like, even if I go back and try to study it a million times, again, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, like some of his matches, I'll try to go back and study. And I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, cool, noted. Oh my God. Oh my, and I'm like, I've seen this match a million times. Like, why am I still? So yeah, wrestling's cool.
So circling back to the NWA, which is a promotion that has been just, to call it decorated would be an insult to what it means to professional wrestling. And where it's at right now from where it was all the years ago, it's starting to become a much bigger, in the eyes of the general public, for professional wrestling fans. I don't think it's getting talked about enough at this point, all the hard work from the men and women associated with the NWA. What has it been like for you to be in the NWA and people like, hey, I haven't checked out the NWA. What would you say to those people to get them to watch?
I'm on it. Duh, go watch it. Like, it's kind of plain and simple. But no, I think there are people on there that you can tell, like, okay, we're trying to make a name here. We're trying to prove ourselves and get better and improve. So I would say if you're trying to look for talent that are just looking for a chance and just to prove what they can do, like, try to watch that. I guess that's overall. And then, Mr. Corgan, Billy, it's very interesting, trying to see his vision because nobody can see it. And he always has like a new way of looking at stuff. So it kind of changes. But it's cool. Like what he's trying to do and what he's done slowly over time is like, once he purchased it and became owner, he still wanted to start at like that old school feeling. And then progressively over time, make it more modern. So, there's stuff that's changed coming with it. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of young talent there that we're just trying to grind and all that stuff. So come support.
So, for those who may not know that are watching this and they want to watch the NWA, Where can they find the NWA?
On the CW app. They have, we're now on the CW app. Thank you very much. That became, I think this year is when that became a thing. So we've been slowly every Tuesday. Originally we were on YouTube, and I don't know if we still have it on YouTube. That's a misunderstanding on my part. But we do currently have on the CW app every Tuesday. I had a match on there last Tuesday. This week, or today is Tuesday. Yeah, today there's gonna be more matches tonight. So yeah, every Tuesday. And then if you miss it, like you could just, it's on the app, so you could just go back and watch. And then just while you're on there, maybe write a message, say you want more Missa Kate. I wouldn't be mad about that.
Hashtags are important too.
Hashtags. Hashtag more Missa.
I wanted to ask though, you have accomplished so much in your career already, and there's still so much for you to do. What year in your career do you feel you experienced the most growth as a wrestler, and what led to that growth?
Honestly, this previous year. I think it's a mixture of, okay, for the first, so when I first started wrestling, I felt I got thrown in pretty quick because I was such a fan and I was able to grab concepts quickly. Because again, I was a wrestling nerd before. Like before I started physically training, I would listen to and all this stuff. So I had a decent grasp on it. However, I still didn't understand it. But the trainer that I was with at the time, I guess, saw something in me and was like, oh no, you could start having matches. And I was like 6-7 months in, and that's very new. Whereas my second trainer, Bryce Benjamin, he's now retired, but he would have his students wait a minimum of a year before even contemplating on them having a match because of fundamentals and basics and stuff like that. So the whole point of the story is, for the longest time, because I felt like I was thrown in very quickly, I felt I was constantly playing catch up. And I was worried about the wrong things because I was overthinking, and I'm a perfectionist and I care very much about this. And just overall everything that comes with it. So it wasn't until, I guess, this previous year, signing with NWA, I guess, gave me a little bit of a confidence, like, okay, I'm in the right direction. I know I could give myself credit. I know what I'm doing more than I realize I do. And just even that, like certain things personally, like personal life things made me open my eyes in general, and that made me see wrestling in a different way. And so yeah, overall, I think this past year has been, it's been a giant growth. And again, me traveling more, and I'm like, that's a big part of it. And I think if I didn't have a change in mindset for certain things, I would not be where I am right now. And being able to do the things that I'm able to do. So, and that's something that I learned. I am the worst with names, and I don't even want to hint who it is because I will get slapped in the face. But there was somebody very credible that actually used to work with WWE. I had a conversation with about wrestling, and he was even saying back in his day, people that were 5 years in were still considered great. Like super knew what those people were meant to do for those first 5 years. Just go town to town and learn and all this stuff, right? And just having a conversation with him, we talked more after that because it's like, that's your getting your feet under you. Now, once you hit the 5-6 year, now you can start seasoning yourself, and that's where I'm at. So I think it was just funny having that conversation with him reassured me of the questions that I was having about myself. So, yeah. I don't know if that answered your question. I ramble a lot. So
No, that was great. That was great.
Thank you.
Last question here. We'll kind of end this on a nice, happy note here. Yourself aside, Mount Rushmore of Chicago athletes.
Athletes, not wrestlers?
What the hell? Give me both.
Okay. Michael Jordan, of course. I really don't know as many athletes as I should. This is really sad. But we'll say Chicago, obviously, you have CM Punk on there. Ace Steel. My gosh, my brain is blanking right now. I feel like there's so many people from Chicago, and I can't think. See, you're putting me on the spot. You got me. Heated Shenanigans. This is exactly what it is all about. Now I see. Very heated. Bunch of shenanigans. But yeah, I don't know. Like, as far as wrestling goes, like, there's, again, people that I feel like have gone through here that aren't from here, but they have a huge staple here, or people that others don't really know of, but they have trained a lot of people that came through here. So it's like, it all depends on a lot of different things. As you can tell, I overthink a lot, but we'll say Michael Jordan. We'll call him Michael Jordan. We don't need a bunch of people. We just got MJ. It's okay. MJ all day.
Fair. Well, as we get here to the end, what are some upcoming appearances that you have? I do know of one big one coming up, which is going to be March 29th and 30th in Indianapolis, Indiana at Squared Circle Expo.
Yes.
One of the biggest, arguably the best professional wrestling conventions in the United States, headlined by, God, I could be here all night, but I'll just name a few. Jushin Thunder Liger was just announced the other night. Sting, Eric Bischoff. We're bringing in Kelly, Victoria, Deborah McMichael, Nigel McGuinness, and of course, this lady, NWA Power Star, Missa Kate, will be there for both days. Guys, definitely come out to Square Circle Expo. Come out, meet Missa, meet Nigel, Victoria, Deborah, Kelly. It's going to be a phenomenal time, and we want to have you guys there.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you. It's that, like how you said, that's something that I think every wrestler achieves to be at. So I'm like, that's happening. It's very cool. I'm very blessed. Yeah, well, besides that major, in April, I am also going to be going to Mania Week. And those of you that possibly follow me on social media are watching a little journey that I'm having, going to Missa Mania, getting to Missa Mania. I'm being trained by Mr. Taz. Taz is an MMA coach that runs Warrior Evolution Wrestling. That's actually, that's the gym that I'm at currently. But him, there's gonna be, Jordan, my agent, and a couple other friends are gonna pop in along the way. So just keep watching, watch that journey on social media, but also just going there. And it's cool knowing that I'm gonna be at WrestleCon. That was just announced. So I'm like, cool, I can say it now. But I'm gonna be at WrestleCon. I am also going to be at the 2300 Arena for the Block Party signing. And I will also be with Captain's Corner that Friday night. I can't remember the date. I want to say that's the 5th. The 5th, I want to say, at night. Like, that will be, I want to say, after 10 o'clock at night, will be an online signing for those that can't come to Philly. So you're going to reach me somehow, some way while I'm in Philly. But yeah, those are the major things. But of course, I do have Chicago Style Wrestling, AAW in Chicago. I'm blinking more. Wow, I am great at this. I love this. But no, I do just follow me. Honestly, just follow me on social media. And I post what's going on, where I'm gonna be, all that fun stuff. And if I don't, just check where I'm tagged, because I'm tagged in all that fun stuff too. So, but yeah, I have a bunch of fun stuff coming up. So the best thing I could do is follow me on social media, Missa Kate 23 on Instagram and Twitter. And if you're looking for ways to support, feel free to click that link tree. I always want to say LinkedIn, but that is not LinkedIn. Link tree to see more fun stuff of how you can help. And even if you're interested in being, I've had people ask to be a sponsor for Missa Mania. That is also something that is more than welcome. We have a couple sponsors already, and it's kind of growing. So that's kind of cool. Feel free to send me an email, and we could talk about that as well. So yeah, I'm very excited. There's a lot going on, and that's where I'm like, I overthink, because I'm like, I was just looking at my calendar right before we hopped on here, and I was like, oh, I got a bunch of stuff coming up. I'm very excited.
Well, we are looking forward to working with you, Missa. And it has been a true pleasure already just talking with you and getting to hear some stories from you today. And well, guys, that's going to do it for this episode, though. And I definitely want to thank my guest, NWA Power Star Missa Kate, for taking time from her very busy schedule to join us on today's episode. And again, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We definitely appreciate it. And we will see you guys on the next episode. Everybody out there, take care.